This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Well, hey there and happy Thursday. Welcome to episode 56 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm really pleased to welcome Maria Bayer to the show today to talk all about selling. Maria is the creator of Irresistible Selling, an online group coaching program she designed to help creative entrepreneurs book dream clients, grow their business, and design a life they love. Maria teaches the authentic selling and mindset strategies that helped her triple her income in less than a year and go on to book over $25 million in sales from companies like Target, Best Buy, Ulta, Office Max, and Hyatt. She also leads a private Facebook mastermind group of talented creative business owners called Learn Collaborate Flourish. Maria is a national speaker and has authored and co-authored several Kindle books, and her articles have been featured throughout the creative industry. Maria holds a bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Illinois and currently resides in the Chicago area with her husband Tim and fur baby Gia. Usually she has a cappuccino in her hand. She is a woman after my own heart. I love coffee, as you probably already know. Just a few of the places that Maria has been featured in are the She Did It Her Way podcast, the Savvy Business Circle, the Wedding Business Academy, which of course we love on She Creates Business. That's Jenny Krause and Kristen Kaplan's program. And I'm really pleased to have her on the show today to talk about selling. So without further ado, let's go to the show. Maria, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kinsey. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It is seriously my pleasure. We were talking offline, listeners. Megan Ely connected us, and I just could not thank her enough because I have seen Maria and been following her work in sales and her Irresistible Selling course, and I knew that she was the perfect person to have on the show to talk to us about sales and pricing, and so it's just truly my pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure as well.
You're welcome. Well, as I mentioned, I have given everyone that professional bio that we all have there at the top of the show, but I would certainly love if you would, in your own words, just briefly tell us who you are and how you serve the wedding industry currently.
Sure. Well, as you know, my name is Maria Bayer, and I teach a course called Irresistible Selling, How to Win Wedding and Event Clients You Love. And it's an online group coaching course that basically takes all of the things I learned in my professional selling career that I know work really well, and it helps wedding professionals book clients faster and for more money than they're used to in the past. So that's what I've created, and I've been doing that for, I think we're going on our 4th year actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's been a wonderful run, and I absolutely love my clients, and they've been doing crazily well, and we're actually in the middle of one of the courses right now.
Well, tell me I would love to your backstory. Can you kind of share with the evolution in your career and how you got to helping wedding professionals with their pricing and sales strategy, and how you created this course 4 years ago?
Sure. As with most things in life, it was a very crooked path.
Yes, which we love.
But yeah. And I could never have anticipated any of this myself, but I spent over 10 years in corporate America. So I sold software to Fortune 1000 companies. So I spent a lot of time just literally selling and searching out potential clients. So it's a really, really cutthroat industry. So to last in that industry 10 years, it really takes a lot of work. Yes. And you have to be able to like figure it out. And thank God I was. And it provided a wonderful life and lifestyle for me for many years. But it also burned me out as well. Mm-hmm. So I finally got the guts to leave, because it's tough when you're in a job and you're making good money, and you know what I mean? You don't know what else you can do. And ironically enough, I got a call from, I'm going to just give you the Reader's Digest version, but I got a call after my wedding from my wedding planner. Mm-hmm. And she said to me, Maria, I heard that you do sales consulting, and I think I might want to hire you to teach my team how to sell. And meanwhile, before that, I had been tapped by a woman who has, she's got a really big online following of interior designers. And she and I had met at a networking event, and she tapped me to create a sales course for her members. Oh, wow. So I wasn't sure that I would necessarily wanted to be in the interior design business, but I knew that if I partnered with her, it would really allow me to like force this class out of me and make me create this.
Yes.
And give me a deadline and really help me understand the online world, which is honestly a whole different, animal than, selling in the real world, to face to face. So it really gave me an education and helped me get this course out. But then when my planner called me and I said, well, let's talk about that. What are you looking for? And in our conversation, it sounded like, this class I have over here for interior designers might be perfect for your team. Let me just tweak it. Because my philosophy of selling is that selling is selling. And if you're doing it in a way that's authentic and true to you and not gimmicky or salesy, it's the strategies that you learn, you'll use forever. So I felt like everything that I had been teaching the interior designers would transfer over because the sales process was very similar. And I just needed to tweak the terminology and the examples and the language and those types of things. So I did that and we presented it to her team and they did so well that I said, hey, why don't you just help me, introduce this to the whole wedding industry? And she said, sure, I'd be happy to. And she happened to know a lot of people in Chicago here. That's where I'm from. And she helped, basically introduce it to the market here. And it sort of just grew from there. And now we're in year 4 and we've had this past enrollment was the biggest one we've had yet. So I'm super thrilled to be able to do this for a living because I absolutely love it.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Irresistible Selling course? I know you just closed enrollment. So do you launch it once a year or twice a year?
It's usually twice,
Okay.
But last year I did it twice, but the year before my father had passed away. So I took some time off and I only had it once, but generally I do it twice a year. So, but this is the big enrollment and I do it this time of year because I want people in the course during booking season. Because then they can, so that way they can take the concepts that I'm teaching them and apply them right away, which helps them learn them faster. But it also gives them the opportunity to have access to me in our Facebook group and ask questions so that they can book more of those clients and book them, at higher rates or book their higher packages. So the course really helps people take an inquiry and teaches them what to do from the moment somebody inquires to how to book them more quickly, hopefully on the spot. So a lot of my clients will book clients on the spot, and it just helps them do that faster and for more money than they have in the past. So I just took all of the things that I had used over 10 plus years of selling and learning, by trial and error oftentimes, because I didn't read a book to learn all this. I learned this the hard way. So, you learn what works and what doesn't work. And to me in sales, you can never be 100% sure that someone's going to, buy if you do X, Y, and Z, but you do know that you can stack the odds in your favor.
Right.
And, so there's certain things that you learn just about selling in general, like certain strategies that I know work. And those are just things that people might not ever be exposed to or learn on their own, because my experience of selling in corporate America was that I was selling to like really big companies and they're typically extremely savvy. They know how to negotiate very well. And so you have to learn how to adapt to that and how to sell, to somebody that's really smart that way. So what I realized was kind of by accident was that all of these entrepreneurs were not exposed to any of these strategies. So I thought, well, my gosh, they should be, they should learn this stuff because this is gold. This stuff can really help them not only raise their fees, but get paid quicker and book clients faster and feel good about it and not feel like they're, excuse the expression, but like a used car salesman.
Sure.
And that to me makes you feel icky and makes you hate what you do. And I don't want anybody to ever feel that way. I want sales to be just a natural extension of who you are, but learning some of those techniques that I know will stack the odds in your favor and help you win more of those clients. And also, conversely, be able to know right away who might not be a good fit for you, because it's just as important to know who's not a good client so that you don't go into, bring on somebody that might be detrimental to your business.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. That is so true. And I think that sometimes when we are trying to book clients and maybe we feel that pressure of bringing in revenue, we make those not bad decisions, but we make those decisions based on fear that we're not going to meet our revenue goals. And that brings on clients that are not a good fit for us.
Bingo. Absolutely. You make the decision on fear, and that is exactly right. And I want people to make the decision based on, who's a good fit for me. Mm-hmm. And, let's be honest, not everybody's going to be a perfect fit.
Sure.
Anybody that thinks that you'll have that's, not really reality. But a really good fit versus a really bad fit. And that just takes learning some of these strategies and how to identify, for example, red flags in advance, mm-hmm. And things like that, where if you've never learned these things, you might never know that. And the only way you might learn it is through, learning the hard way and perhaps going through a very bad situation.
So let's talk about some of those things from your, very experienced and skilled sales background. When you entered into the wedding industry with your wedding planner and beyond, of course, up to these last 4 years, what have you seen that wedding industry professionals are really struggling with when it comes to sales? And why do you think they're struggling with those things?
That's a great question. I'd have to say that I think the thing that most people struggle with, regardless of whether they're creative or not, is really just articulating and building value and knowing what makes them different. And so what happens is when they don't know how to build value with a client and show why they're worth what they charge, then they're forcing the client to make a decision on price. And so then they get mad because, they always want, something cheaper, or they went with somebody less expensive. Well, that's because the client doesn't know any better because they haven't been given any other things to make their decision on. So I think that just that whole value is a difficult thing for people. And they struggle because they feel like, all right, if I'm a planner, for example, well, how am I really different from every other planner on the planet? Mm-hmm. We all seem similar. And that may seem true on the surface, but in reality, every industry experiences the same challenges, right? There's always multiple people in your industry that you're competing against. And it's never realistic to think that you can know how everybody is, how you're different from everybody. Right. But there's certain things that you can do to really highlight what makes you different and know that what you're saying will always be unique. And that will help you stand out in the client's mind. And so they have something to make a decision on other than your prices.
What do you find, and just, we don't need to get in the weeds on it, but what do you find is one easy way that we can differentiate ourselves from, like in my case, all of the venue owners or all of the planners, all of the photographers that, like you said, that seems on the surface, we're all the same, but we're not. What's an easy way for us to start to build our differentiation?
Well, there's a couple different things that you can do. And one thing I recommend to all my clients, especially new ones, people mm-hmm. that are just starting out, but even so for experienced wedding professionals as well, is go back to your past clients and talk to them. Mm. Invite them out for coffee, ask them questions. And in fact, in my course, I give them specific questions to elicit specific information from them that they can use strategically throughout the sales cycle. But you really basically you just want to know what makes you different. Like, why did they choose me? Why did you decide to hire me? Who else did you look at and what else were you considering? And just really talking and having that conversation with your past clients will help elicit what makes you different. And one of the things that I like to have them do is really try to dig in as much as they can and uncover what benefits you are giving them, right? What was it that they really wanted to get out of working with you? Because honestly, if you're looking, let's say it's a photographer, they're not looking to necessarily hire a photographer. They're looking for the benefits of hiring a photographer brings to them. So they're not hiring you necessarily. They're hiring you for what you can do for them and what it is they want from hiring you, which is maybe, Hollywood style photos, maybe that's the only time they've ever been dressed up like that and that they've had their makeup done and look like that. Or maybe they want to capture, they have a big family and maybe they have some really old great grandparents that might not be around much longer. And they really want to capture those intimate moments at their wedding. So that's what they're hiring you for. So that's what you want to uncover when you talk to your past clients. And that's going to give you the words to use because they're using very specific words and phrases. And when you do this with multiple past clients, you'll start to see what are the common denominators here? What are people constantly saying over and over? Like for example, I have a client who is a makeup artist. And one of the things that her clients constantly tell her is that the experience of working with her is so different from everybody else. She just walks into a room and she just brings this air of calm over her, and over the room. So everybody's just relaxed and just in the moment. And even when, a bride might be like frantic because maybe something went wrong, she just has this amazing ability to calm people and just make them feel good and relaxed and enjoy that moment, regardless of what's going on around them. Now that's very different. And she may or may not realize that herself, but in talking with past clients, she'll find that information out, especially if she's relatively new to the business and isn't really sure, what makes me different. I may not have that much experience, but we're all unique. And in my opinion, I think it's great to go back to past clients because they're in the best position to tell you what you did for them and how it made them feel. And those are the words you use.
And do you recommend that we contact those clients? I think you mentioned like sitting down and having a cup of coffee. Do you recommend, that face-to-face contact, or do you think sending them like a questionnaire is good enough? What do you recommend?
I recommend face-to-face when it's possible because in all of my selling, and you probably, people really realize this if you think about it, you really have more in-depth conversations when you're face-to-face with somebody.
Totally.
And one thing I noticed, which was so odd, in all of my sales conversations that I had with any company, and I've talked with literally probably thousands of companies over my career, the most pivotal things that have come out of those conversations almost always happened at the very end of those conversations. And they were almost never on the phone. They were always face-to-face. So what I recommend is actually, depending on what your profession is. So whether you're a photographer, planner, stationer, whatever, you probably have a process that you go through for each of your clients. So what I recommend is to really level up your business, set an action item at the end of your process that says like maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the wedding, schedule a date with them, with the person that just got married and have coffee with them. Or even better yet, when you're talking to them before the wedding, say, these are the steps that, what's going to happen. And let's say you're a photographer. You might say, okay, a week after the wedding, I'll get you the proofs or whatever. I'll give you like an online gallery, or maybe I'll invite you in and we'll do a reveal or something like that. But then when you let them know, then we're also going to set some time on the calendar because I want to chat with you and just, revel in the wedding. We can talk about what happened at the wedding and, just enjoy and celebrate. And that way it's already on the calendar and they're constantly, it's in the flow so that every time they have a new client, they know they're going to meet with them afterwards and they can get this invaluable information. And the thing that I really love about it, and when I first did it, I didn't realize all the benefits that they would get out of it, but people were coming back to the Facebook group and they were saying, oh my God, I feel so awesome. It really helped my confidence because they were telling me all these things that I did that I didn't really realize, or I didn't realize they really appreciated as much as they did. So it really helped me boost my confidence. And that's something, to your question earlier about what do they struggle with, I think it's that confidence factor too, and really knowing, because they don't have a process. They don't really know a sales process because they were never taught a sales process, because there's really not a lot of books out there that will teach you that. So I think when you learn that, it gives you that level of confidence that you need.
You bet. Well, and listeners, I'm sure you've told yourself at one time or another, and Maria said it earlier, that it's hard for us to really pick out what we're good at or talk about ourselves or say, hey, I do this really well. And so Maria's suggestion of interviewing your past clients, not too long after their wedding or whatever it is, it's an easy way for you not to have to do that. I mean, there's so many benefits to doing what Maria suggested, not the least of which is finding what makes you great, but not having to try to, pry it out of yourself, especially if you hate talking about yourself, which I hear all the time with creatives.
Yes.
They can't find their, I was just at a like an intensive in DC, and they asked us like what we thought our superpower was. And a lot of the women, myself included, were just like, we don't really know because we don't like talking about ourselves, which is okay in some instances, but you guys are awesome. So we can do this.
Yeah. And you know what, to that point, it's so important because like, I don't know some of the things that I do for people. And if it weren't for me physically going out and asking my past clients, I wouldn't know some of those things that I do that, I could sit there with a pen all day long and try to figure out what makes me different. Right. But in one 30-minute conversation, I just got all this gold from people, and there's something else that you said that brought up something that I wanted to share. One of the other things that they can do to help set themselves apart is to look at what makes you, like, what are some of the things in your history from like the time you were a child or maybe an adolescent that really impacts your ability to be a good photographer or a good planner. And it could be anything. It could be the fact that you planned your first birthday party, at age 5, you know what I mean? That your mother didn't even have to do it, that you did it, that it was just in your blood. Or maybe like I've got some clients that have one particular, floral design client that has a background in psychology. And they use that, and they use that to help determine what their clients are looking for, even if their clients can't articulate what they want in terms of a floral design. And it's brilliant, but it completely sets them apart. So what I love people to do is just go back and look at what makes you unique, just in terms of your likes and what are your strengths and some of your hobbies and things that you're really good at. And then translate that to how does that make you uniquely qualified to be a better photographer for them. And here's the thing, you don't have to be the best planner or the best photographer or the best stationer or the best floral designer. There's always going to be people better than you, quote unquote, better than you or more talented than you, but there's only one you. And not everybody needs the very best in the universe, because I, as a client, am nowhere near as discerning as you might be as a professional photographer, for example. Your eye is very different from me. And what I'm going to choose in a photographer is not who's technically the best, but maybe who makes me feel the best, who makes me feel calm and confident enough in front of the camera to get those pictures in the first place. So that's some of the things that people can do to help show how they're different. For example, if you like that, the makeup artist that I was talking about before, that's a unique thing about her, that she's just got this calm personality, that she's able to calm people. And that's what helps people have those great memories and not look back at their wedding and say, oh my God, we had to rush through the makeup and I was so worried because this other thing happened before and I was nervous as all get out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So those are the stories that they can tell. And if you don't want to sound salesy, one of my very favorite ways of tooting your own horn without sounding salesy or like you're bragging is say something like, we talk to all of our clients after the wedding, and what we hear a lot is, and then, fill in the blank, or what they tell us all the time is, and just preface it that way. And that helps reframe it. And you feel a little bit differently about it. You don't necessarily feel like you're bragging, but it's true. It's what other people are saying about you. So go ahead.
Oh no, keep going. I love that. What we hear a lot is that you completely put it off, and it's to them, it is someone else saying it.
Exactly. And the other way you can utilize that is in client stories when you're talking to your potential client. So when you're asking them questions about what they're looking for and what their vision is and those types of things, then you can respond with different client stories and talk about past clients and how you've helped people in similar situations. Like a good example might be maybe an interfaith ceremony, right? Because I've seen those a lot where you've got two different faiths. And so you have maybe a rabbi and a priest, for example. And so talking about how you've worked with other interfaith couples in the past is a really wonderful way to help your client understand that, hey, you're a pro and you've dealt with this a million times before, and here's some examples of it. So it really allows them to put themselves in your client's shoes and imagine themselves having that same result. And that's why client stories are super powerful, and they come across as very strong with your client, that you're an expert, and not so much as, oh, I'm patting myself on the back. It just, the feeling is a little bit different. And that's why I love client stories. I think they're brilliant.
Oh, I love that. So, well, when you gather, I guess, what do you think is more effective when sharing client stories? In the wedding industry, they always tell us, have like your experience guide or et cetera to help your couples understand your processes and what it's going to be like to be a couple of your specific service or venue or what have you. Do you think that it's okay to include, I guess, testimonials or kind of parts of client stories in those sort of like marketing assets? Or how do you think is two of the best ways to kind of communicate those client stories, other than, of course, at like our consultations and things of that nature?
If I understand your question right, are you saying other than consultations? So other than the first conversation that they're having, or?
Yeah, other than like our conversations with our couples. I mean, we, as ideally, like we have testimonials everywhere. So what are ways we can incorporate those into our business and like our marketing assets so that they're kind of working for us, as you suggested, the clients telling the stories. Where else can we incorporate those? So that
yes,
our couples can kind of see those without us always saying like, well, here's our story.
Exactly. Yes, that's a great question. So one of my favorite ways is to put it in the footer of your email signature.
Oh,
so
I love that.
I have mine rotate. So every day I have a different testimonial in the footer of my email. So people are constantly reading different ones. What the other sort of tip I give people to collect these is, every time someone says something nice about you or your service, put it in a document, a master document. Just record it right then and there, and then make sure you get their approvals. So that way, like I have a master document that's it's like about 35 pages now.
Wow.
And I literally, like I write it down, everything people, if they email me, if they text me, if they direct message me, if they post something in the Facebook group that's really, specific about a benefit that they got from the program, then I write it down, because that way I have what I need when I need it, and I can use it to answer your other question, like in my emails, in my client stories when I'm directly talking with people. Use it all over your website, not just in your testimonial page. So I like having them on every page of your website, and it could just be a snippet. It doesn't have to be like a full-blown paragraph. But I love using those on every page, because you never know where people are coming from to get to your website, and you don't know what pages they're looking at. So they may not always look at the testimonial page. So this way, you're just reinforcing that testimonial over and over and over, because that's social proof. And that's the most, that's the thing that's going to help people, hire you more than anything that you could ever say to them. Right. And that's why I use testimonials all the time in my business, because people join my program because they've talked to past clients, and that's been the strongest social proof for them.
Okay, I love that. Social proof really sells.
It does. And more today than ever before, I think, because of how people crowdsource decisions, I think it's even more important than it ever was before. So that's why, and one other thing that I do that I like to point out, because I've seen so many, we're on so many lists, right? You probably have an email that gets 400 emails a day of different lists that you're on. And so many people, and it really makes me mad. They'll have like testimonials in their emails or on their website, and they'll just have like someone's first name. And it bugs me, because they could technically buy that testimonial, and you don't know if that testimonial is real. So when I use testimonials, I use people's full name, I use their business name, I use their picture, And I do that on purpose because I want people to know these are real people. These are real live testimonials. These are not things that I made up or just somebody named Jane somewhere in the world that said something about me, So I like people to use real names. And I think it just humanizes it and increases the believability factor instead of you just saying, this is, Jen and Tony or something like that, because then you don't know who they are.
And just logistically, Maria, do you get permission to use people's full names and all of that?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yes. And if there's ever, sometimes I'll get things from people and they're really powerful, but they might be very vulnerable. So I'll ask them, I'll say, hey, can I use this? And I recognize that it's kind of personal. I'd be happy to make this anonymous if that would be okay, or only use it in certain circles. You know what I mean? Not put it publicly, just do it sort of internally. And they're okay with that. But I always, always, always get permission. Okay. Yes. For asking. I forgot to mention that.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I knew I was going to be able to talk to you all day, but we are coming up on the end of the time and I have barely kind of touched. I mean, we could take just what you said about talking to our clients and all of that information and drastically improve our sales process. I guarantee that. But I promised I'd get you out of here in about 30 minutes. I know you're busy. So I would love to touch on if you could share 3 sales tips for wedding professionals in the last couple of minutes here, so I can get you out of here on time. I would absolutely love that.
Sure. Okay. So we already talked about going back to past clients because that's a treasure trove of information. Instead of just guessing what that is, I think it's just smarter to go to the horse's mouth and find out directly from your clients. The other thing that I see that can make a huge impact is once I started working with wedding professionals, I realized that they all had different processes, and sometimes making a very slight shift in a process could make a huge impact. So one of those things we discovered was that a lot of people were going to meetings first when someone first contacted them. Mm-hmm. So instead of having a conversation with them on the phone, they'd actually set up a meeting. And I like to do the reverse. So what I have my clients do is I say, you need to qualify them first. So get them on the phone first before you take that effort to meet with them, because it's going to be a lot of effort and time on your part, and you don't know if they're qualified, right? So you don't want to take that time up, because the more experienced you get, the more time is going to become a very valuable resource to you. Right. Maybe in the beginning when you're just starting out, you've got all the time in the world, so you can do that. But my recommendation really is just for your peace of mind and your sanity and your confidence level, it's really better just to do that qualification on the phone. Okay. And so changing that for one thing, because you can save a lot of time, and it helps you because it's so much easier once to have a conversation with someone on the phone and know that they're not a good fit versus going to a meeting with them and realizing they're not a good fit. Somehow it just has a bigger impact on your confidence level when you meet with them. Even though in your head all right, they were a bad fit, but it hits you, it hurts you more, I guess, right, if you meet with them. It's so much easier to brush it off if it's a conversation. So that's the first thing. Okay. Then the second thing is to get them on the phone. One thing I don't want people to do anymore is I do not want you to give people pricing on email. Because the biggest problem people have is the potential clients will fill out your contact form. They'll say, are you available for my wedding date? And if so, how much do you charge? And people get mad about that. But the problem is the clients have no idea what to ask because they probably never hired a professional photographer before, right? So of course they're going to ask what you charge because that's all they know. But the thing is, you don't have to answer their question and you don't have to send them your price list. And you, if you're my client, you better not send them your price list. So what I recommend is just responding back right away and saying, thank you so much for reaching out. Congratulations on your engagement. We would love to chat with you more to understand your vision and to be able to make sure that we're both a good mutual fit for one another. Are you available one of these days to have a brief chat? And that's it. Short and sweet and to the point. Get them on the phone. Give them a couple of options of times and days that you can talk, or send them a link to your calendar if you use one of the calendaring services. But I like to really make it as fast of a response as possible, and make it a very quick email so that the only decision they have to make is yes or no. And if they're not interested in you, if you're just a number to them and they're just trolling to get prices, then they're not going to want to talk to you on the phone. And so that's a good way to qualify them. That's your first step in qualifying. So if they are willing to get on the phone with you, then you can get on the phone, and then you can further qualify them on the phone. But those two things, making those two changes, will have an enormous impact on your success rate.
That is so phenomenal. Okay, a quick question that I just thought of. In that same train of thought, what is your recommendation then on putting prices on your website?
Great question. So my usual answer to that is you can put your starting prices. I wouldn't put your price list. I would say, just to help qualify people, especially if you're more advanced, right? So let's say your minimum prices are $5,000 and up, but the average, quote unquote, average price is maybe $3,000. So you're getting a lot of inquiries that are not qualified, people that are looking for sort of an entry level person, but you're at that next tier. Then it's really helpful to put that starting level. And the way I like to see people phrase it is, our collections or our packages or our, some other word like that, start at. And that's a great way to start to, weed out the people that just don't have the right budget for you. And so that way you're not getting that many inquiries. Now, the flip side to that is, if you're brand new and chances are your prices aren't real high anyway to begin with, but I would say if you're brand new, then don't put them on, because you want those inquiries. You want to practice. And I'd prefer that people practice with inquiries that they're okay if they don't win, because it's a lot easier. They don't have as much vested in it. So I usually tell them, if they're new, don't put the prices on. Let everybody contact you and just use that as practice to qualify them and to get to that next stage, because you're going to learn a lot faster with the more inquiries that you get in.
Okay, that is so brilliant. I feel like, honestly, I feel like we need to have like a part 2 to this conversation, because we just scratched the surface, but I took copious amounts of notes. This has been so wonderful. And as I mentioned, I promised I'd have you out of here. I want to respect your time, but Maria, I would love it if you would tell our listeners what is on the horizon for you and your business in 2017. What are you offerings or projects you're excited about, and how they can find you online.
Great. Well, one of the things that I'm really super excited about, because I've admired them for years, is I am fortunate enough to be asked to be a speaker at the Be Sage conference in Hilton Head this December.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations.
Thank you. I've just loved them and admired them for years. And I think that they are so phenomenally smart and brilliant and really, really help people up-level their businesses. So I'm really honored to be a speaker. So I hope that your listeners will consider joining us in December. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to be coming out with more products and more programs. So specifically, I'm working on one class that's a B2B class.
Oh, wow.
Because I have a lot of clients now that they've been with me for a couple of years and they've really up-leveled their business, a lot of them want to branch out into selling to businesses so that they can get more weekday work, for example, or just bigger contract work where they're having like a regular, very large order every month, for example. So that's a kind of a different set of sales strategies. So I'm putting that together now. And I also want to come out with like a beginner class, something that people who are just starting their businesses, something that they can just sink their teeth into and get started with. And as a level up, so that when they're ready to take the full class with us, they can do that. But at least it gives them a step up to get there.
That all sounds great.
Yeah.
And where can we find you online, Maria?
Great. So if you'd like free weekly sales tips, you can sign up for my newsletter, and you can go to www.mariabayer.com. And if you want to join we have a Facebook group called Learn Collaborate Flourish, where we do lots of fun things, like have monthly collabor dates, where they're like virtual coffee dates where you can meet people and collaborate with them. And then we also do things like lunch and learns, where I bring in an outside expert and we do like a Facebook Live. and people can ask questions on the fly. And I feel like it's different than like a webinar because people can just ask whatever questions they want, so they can sort of direct and get the information that they need as opposed to just listening to whatever the speaker wants to talk about. So those are really fun too. And if they want to join us there, I'd love for them to join us.
And I want to make sure that I link that up in the show notes. So just to confirm, you said the Facebook group is called Learn Collaborate Flourish?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. And listeners, like I say, I'll make sure I have that in the show notes so you can just tap your podcast player and be redirected right to there. Maria, thank you. I cannot thank you enough for being here. This has been so insightful. As I mentioned, I feel like I could talk to you for hours and we couldn't even scratch the surface, but I know that these tips are going to be so helpful to everyone listening. So I really appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. This has been a blast, and I can't wait for our next one.
Yay, I'm so glad. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, Maria.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.